Rick Martell taking on the TV champion Booker T. The model, Rick Martell.
Yes.
I haven't really seen him since 93.
It's nice because I like that it's like one man on his way up, one man on his way down, bit of mutual respect. I even didn't mind the handshakes and the hugs at the end.
I like that. And not something you saw very often in WCW and WWE.
And Booker T, it's just fucking great. Like, you can just tell that his facials are just fucking out this world.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love it.
You can see here as well, they've made the decision to push Booker T, who's always been in a tag team in Harlem Heat. And they've made the decision to give him, a push. They're giving him the TV title, which is traditionally the sort of the lowest of the singles titles.
Right.
And he's just charismatic, isn't he? He's really getting across with the crowd in a way that I think with the opponent, Rick Martell, who is an older guy, they are saying, he can hang with people you've heard of. And it's not just people his age that he's taking on. And that was a good decision. This is a very, very differently paced match from everything that we've seen before. And I really enjoyed it. I like to see Martell, and this is one of those runs that people are always surprised when it turns out you go, Rick Martell was in WCW in 1999. You're like, Rick Martell could have been part of the Attitude Era. That just seems absolutely surprising. Oh, this is 98, of course. But it's nice to bring those guys back. Martell is one of those guys, I find it really surprising. He's not in the WWE Hall of Fame. And yet, such an iconic gimmick that he had. There doesn't seem to be any particular reason why that is. He's also a guy who, when you see pictures of him now, he's still in shape.
Yeah.
He still looks good. But he's one of those guys who did move on from wrestling and therefore looks like a normal businessman.
Yeah.
Very much the Tito Santana route.
He didn't have to remove his ribs because he did too much jumping around.
Yeah, or had to do 10 years of blading his head so that, it looks like a cauliflower. There's a bit where Martell does a sort of leapfrog and Booker accidentally runs into his nuts. I couldn't tell whether it was a mistake or whether it was meant. But Martell just sells it like, oh, my bloody nuts. And as you say, right at the end, we get a bit of mutual respect between the two. But Martell then gets attacked by Perry Saturn.
Yes.
One of the only times you'll see Perry Saturn with hair here. When he started off his career, he had very long hair, like JBL did in his early days. And it was incredibly long. By the time he goes to ECW, shaved.
Yeah.
And then this is just one period in WCW where he has hair. And then for the rest of his career, he'll be bald. Very much, for Perry Saturn's hair, this was its last hurrah. An Indian summer where it just appears for a couple of months. And then we never, ever see it again. Match number 5, which is the WCW Tag Team Champion Scott Hall taking on living legend Larry Zbyszko. We saw Zbyszko a month ago at Starrcade taking on Eric Bischoff. I mean, we seem to have finished whatever we were doing with Larry at the NWO sort of Starrcade match, didn't we? Somehow, not only is it still going on, he's now facing legitimate big stars who could be in other angles that you'd rather see. Again, Scott Hall is being promoted as the number 1 contender to the WCW title, and yet here he is taking on an elderly announcer on one of the big shows. The WCW versus NWO, it is still going on. And what's really noticeable about this show, and they make a really good decision that the commentators will not talk about it incessantly. So they do talk about the matches as the matches go out, and they don't spend their whole time going, I remember coming up in a moment where NWO running wild. But you do get the impression now we've been doing this, NWO versus WCW storyline has been going on interminably.
Yeah.
With no end in sight and no real... I mean, like any war, who is going to be the victor at the end?
Yeah.
What terms does that victory take? It will just dribble on, really, until it dies.
Someone sucks it. Someone has to suck it. And if they're left sucking it, then the war has been won.
Hey, we've won. So who's your person who's going to suck it? It's Scott Flash Norton. Again, Pyrrhic victory. There's always a sting in the tail, isn't there? The pool ball man has a sign as well, the guy with the 6. And it says on it, Zbyszko, the living has-been. And I know there's the NWO attitude and everything, but when you put that on your screen before this starts, and then you see Larry Zbyszko, it's impossible not to go, oh, I'm watching a has-been.
Yes.
I am watching a has-been. Louis Spicoli is with Scott Hall as well. A guy who was in ECW, had a brief WWF run as Rad Radford, the grunge rocker.
Yes.
But you begin to sort of see in this one, okay, the other thing that's going wrong here is everyone's in the NWO.
In the NWO,
it's not like the NWO, like we're the best and the biggest. They're just like, everyone could be NWO.
It's a state of mind, Mark, as you well know.
Again, a good tactic for winning war, which is that you just get the population.
Hearts and minds. It was very much what we were doing in Afghanistan. It was very much. We wanted everyone to join the NWO.
It would be so good if Bischoff came forward and just sort of said, you finally got it. Someone has finally got it. It was a metaphor for our involvement in Afghanistan, that happened a few years later.
Desert Storm.
Yeah.
Or Desert Storm.
Yeah. For actually any conflict in the Middle East. And then we'd all sort of go, wow, this was a brilliant angle. Did you see the way it didn't have a definitive end and it just guttered out and it's still going?
Killed a generation of wrestlers.
It had a higher death toll being in wrestling at this time. Zbyszko then comes out and goes, I've got someone to back me up as well. And that person is Dusty Rhodes. Up he gets from the commentary table. And he's got his denim shirt buttoned up
Double
underneath
denim,
his lower
kind of,
chin.
Country music
And
kind of vibe.
He looks sort of stuffed. And when he came out, I didn't realise what would happen later.
Yes.
I didn't know it was this show
until
he was walking down and I was like, oh, I think I remember what happens here. But that gave you a reason as to why it was buttoned up all
so high.
the way to the top.
And also, but there's no excuse for his trousers being so tight around the gunt.
No, he's got it's still beyond charismatic. I mean, I don't understand how he can just walk to the ring and you go, I am in safe hands here.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unique charisma of the man.
I'm glad he's now dicking about outside the ring because he did my favourite line in this where it's just like, you can play with hurt. No, you can play with hurt or you can play with hurt. Sorry, I mean, he's not playing around. He's in agony. he clarifies because he's fucked it. He's absolutely fucked it.
This match, I actually enjoyed more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is that Scott Hall at this point is a surprisingly generous opponent. So he's a huge, huge name. He's still one of the 4 or 5 top guys in WCW.
He's not got his hair gel, his hair lacquer.
Yeah.
So it's all like frizzy and big. There's quite a lot of hair surprises in this pay-per-view.
Aren't there? And he comes out and look, he's going against a pensioner, an old man. And unlike Kevin Nash, who's like, I don't want to work with the giant. I don't want to lose my heat, brother.
Yeah.
Scott Hall is like, I'll come to work. There'll be a 67-year-old man. He's not that old. And I will act properly scared of him.
Yeah.
He will hurt me. I will sell his offence. And I will just be a complete pro. Really generous. Zbyszko's been around long enough that he just knows the tricks. He doesn't have to do much. There's a little bit where he does a little spinning back kick on the ref, but he makes no attempt to get it above his knee. You know, it's a low thing. And it is just like Grandad who trained in the SAS has got one move. And it's that one.
Back kick.
This ends really beautifully, I thought. I thought Zbyszko did it so well here. And you sort of get the impression why old wrestlers are like, they just don't understand how it works. He's one of the very few people who does playing possum well until Eddie Guerrero comes along and does it. And Zbyszko here gets punched and he flops down to the floor. And then he immediately gets up and he's almost ready. And then he just lies down again. And what he's done there is he's set up really clearly, I'm fine, but I'm pretending not to be.
Yeah.
And so few people do that. He just does it really big that you understand it as a watching audience. And I think there is something there about, Zbyszko's years wrestling in front of big crowds and not necessarily on television, where he actually knows how to perform a move
to a crowd rather than a
to the big
camera,
crowd rather than the TV camera. And there will be plenty of things in the future years where if you were in the audience, you would go, what the fuck just happened there?
Yeah.
You'd need the commentators to explain it. Zbyszko does a great job in this bit. So Spicoli runs into the ring to try and get Hall out of trouble. And in comes Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty Rhodes is 20 seconds with Spicoli. You have never seen a hotter crowd in years. They go fucking mad.
It's no wonder that he would constantly buck himself or his family and, try and sort of say, even though he'd been told don't get in the ring.
Yeah.
When he sees a reaction like this, you're like, well, I'm clearly fucking hot as fucking cakes.
You would say to Dusty, you're old, it's time to move aside. And he gets in there and you go, he's right. He's just right. Whatever it is that makes professional wrestling, Dusty Rhodes is it. What a response. It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin has burst in. Just thrilling. He then unbuttons his shirt, which he's obviously been wanting to do for hours. He accidentally hits Larry Zbyszko with the bionic elbow. And then Scott Hall does his little arms above his head, pointing at Dusty. And it's not an accident. Dusty undoes his shirt, and we see that the NWO shirt
claimed another victim.
Available in 5XL. There it is. He's joined the NWO.
Maybe this was a thinly veiled pastiche / metaphor for the AIDS crisis. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you've been up to.
Yeah.
You could contract an incredibly awful disease.
Yeah, and it would be best if you could wear a T-shirt.
So everyone would know.
So everyone knows. That's not acceptable, Pete. It's really not acceptable. I'm actually going to report us to the Terence Higgins Trust. I think that's the best way to deal with this. If we put it in, there may be some leniency in the fine. This leads to a disqualification of Scott Hall. Again, effectively a loss. And you see how generous Hall is with that. He could have said, there's no way I'm losing to Lola Zbyszko under any circumstances. Yeah. But they go with that. And what we have there is the first time most of us have seen a rule-breaking Dusty Rhodes in our lifetimes. He's not been a rule breaker since the early 70s, I think, late 60s. So this is a seismic turn, if you like. The only problem is, of course, is he's not an active wrestler. So it's slightly unimportant. The whole Dusty Rhodes in the NWO, they didn't really do anything with him.
Right.
He would come down to the ring and just sort of like look around going, oh, yeah.
I'm a bad daddy.
Oh, yeah. Dusty would have watched the NWO and he would have gone, I got a John thing to get involved in this hot angle. It would have been so difficult for him not to go, I'd like to do this. He would only have one single match while he was in the NWO, where he subbed for Scott Hall in a tag team match with co-holder Kevin Nash against Public Enemy on Thunder. So not a key match or anything. It seemed a bit of I don't want to say wasted opportunity, because you didn't really want to be using Dusty Rhodes at a high level in WCW during this period. But it was, I mean, it
would have been popular.
It would have been something. That's the thing. And I did notice, I mean, what happens after WCW is wound up in 2001, Dusty, he goes on to get back in the ring. So he has an ECW run, where again, he's just hugely over because he's Dusty Rhodes. Yeah. He then spends 3 years doing independent shows from 2003 to 6.
Oh, lovely.
Taking on largely the older stars. So he'd do main events. Terry Funk he did a lot with. Abdullah the Butcher, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, God, imagine the grooves.
I have seen a lot of these matches and they are no end of fun. They tend to be very, very short. So the one that I'd noticed when I was just going, who did he take on during this period? I saw he'd taken on Kamala in a stadium show for New England Wrestling. And I was like, I tracked it down through various means. It lasts about 3 minutes. And the stadium is 90% empty. But Rhodes is over.
It's a lot of men with big grooves in their heads.
It really are.
Mashing them together like blue is the warmest colour. Disgusting.
Red is the techniciest colour.
Happiest colour.
He then, naturally, of course, after this, went to TNA, where he would have matches with AJ Styles, of all people, until he ended his career with a short Legends run in WWE. His very final match, Dusty Rhodes, was at the Great American Bash pay-per-view in 2007, a pay-per-view that he had become synonymous with in its early days and had sort of invented the name of. That was in 2007. He lost a Texas bull rope match to Randy Orton. Again, short, but as final matches go, hard to beat. He went out on a WWE pay-per-view, isn't he? And then, of course, Rhodes then goes to work backstage, where he becomes, one of the most beloved trainers, and is, cited by such big names as Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné as being such a key guiding hand. I mean, just a beloved man. It's so nice that he got that end. Rather than, if you like, had he...
The booker that overbooks himself.
Yeah,
and
or
the
formerly great man performing on these wretched shows in front of no one. He got to have his place in the industry solidified by the world's biggest wrestling organisation. And that was a delightful thing to do. Nice. Every time I see Dusty, I love him. I have a big old heart-shaped crush on him. I think he's absolutely magic in a way that very few wrestlers have ever been before or since. And I think he's... fantastic. Not that you'd know it from watching this, but you just go, there's a big egg. There's a big egg showing off a t-shirt.
Big denim egg.
Yeah. And he's smiling to himself like this is good. By the way, he hits his bionic elbow on Larry Zbyszko, and it is incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
Some of the best moves you'll see in the whole show, and that is good. Just before we go, let's have a bit of lightness. Pete, the ad for the Boston Brawl, the internet exclusive pay-per-listen show. 1770, the Boston Massacre. And I was a bit like, oh God, that doesn't sound... Let's not. 1941, oh God. No, it then says the Boston Tea Party, and then it gives a date, the Boston Brawl. And this was for an internet-exclusive pay-per-listen. And what you would do is you would be able to log on, having paid your $7.95, onto your dial-up, and you would be able to listen to an audio-only version of a show, a house show, that you couldn't see. And WCW, I mean, the show that they were talking about is why it wasn't just a normal pay-per-view, who knows? Yeah. But Sting versus Hogan in a cage, Bret Hart versus Ric Flair, Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero, the Steiners versus Raven and Saturn, Jericho versus Malenko, and one of the early Goldberg squashes. It said you have got to have access to a real player, real audio stream.
Yes, an RM file coming at you hot.
Hi again, everyone. This is Gene Okerlund, and this is June the 16th, 1997. We are up and running for the first time ever with Internet Insiders. And this afternoon, as it is here in the Midwest, we are located at the beautiful United Center in Chicago.
Bruno leading Larry to the ring, and Bruno's not even over in New York anymore. Yeah, the whole thing is, though, if you're going to bring all those legends back, then it's going to take more time for the young guys, because we're going to have to take a course on how to run those defibrillation paddles, and that just ends up being more work for us.
Hey, don't laugh. You guys may have to save my life with those things one of these days.
Well, I have another hot dog, Chup Chup.
The excitement of live stuff on Real Player was so exciting.
Now, they did 7 of these pay-per-listen shows throughout 97 and 98. There was WCW Saturday Nitro, there was Battle in Seattle, the Boston Brawl, Malice at the Palace, Profiles in Pain, and the LA Melee. And these ones had the lower list announcers who never really got onto pay-per-view. The Bob Ryder, Mark Madden, and a guy called Deli Boy, I think. And they would do the commentary. And they are now listed as lost wrestling media. So the audio didn't seem to be recorded by WCW themselves. Fans had said they were downloadable, but it doesn't seem like
anybody
certainly
did.
No files have surfaced. There are several of those matches are on YouTube, though. You can watch them. They were fan-cammed and bootlegged. And so you can see that Hogan versus Sting cage match, which is a nice thing for you to get to do.